going to start, I guess, with the return to Ridley Athletic after that 2023 game. Um, Immediately after last week's game, you know, players were already talking about Loyola and not just, hey, next opponent. It seemed like they were already focused on it. Can you talk about the preparation this week for the team and that focus they have?
Yeah, I think the guys have been good. I think, there's something to be said for having experience, sometimes good experience, sometimes bad experiences, but you learn from everything. And if you do, I think there's a lot of value to that. And, last time we went up there did not go well. I think a lot of guys remember that. Certainly, we have a lot of respect for Loyola, the tradition of the school. The program that they've established is obviously one of the best out there. And I respect Charlie so much. I've known him for a long, long time, and their staff, a very experienced group that's been together a long time. So. Kind of reflecting back, we won the first game in 2023. Against Richmond, then went up there and knowing that we'd kind of done that within the last 2 years, I think it's something that, again, just something we got to make sure that we know what we're getting into when we go up there. I think they're 70% all time at Ridley. So obviously it's a team that plays very well there. Great environment, great fans. So we got to make sure that, we are buttoned up and ready to go. And, the weather could be a little bit of a factor just for both teams for sure. So that's something that, I think today there's some value in going out and practicing in the rain. I think a good prep for Saturday, regardless of what happens.
Jake, you got any questions?
Yeah, Coach, I talked to Eric Kolar yesterday, and he had a lot of good things to say about you and your recruiting process. Can you just talk a little bit about Eric and what he kind of brings to this team to the table?
Eric, there aren't probably enough. I don't probably don't have enough time to say all of the things I'd love to say about Eric because I think the world of him. He has really evolved into, I think, one of the better short sticks out there, but has worked incredibly hard to do so. But what I love about Eric is, when we're at practice, he is prideful, he is detail oriented. He gives you everything he has. Yet off the field, there haven't been many days where he has not had great energy, been super positive. He is a team first guy, very selfless, but he's always got this great energy. He's got the ability to make just about anybody smile. He's good natured. He sees the good in anybody. He's just again, when you get into coaching, right, you build relationships and you obviously trying to create a locker room, that's very supportive and very family oriented. And I think Eric is the type of guy that, really buys into that. I think he loves his teammates. His teammates love him. I think he appreciates the opportunity here. He's got a great family at home. That's obviously where that comes from. Just strong values. And again, a guy that just really gets it. And I think we all have great faith in. But man, oh man, like you see him at any point during the day, you got an upbeat, positive guy who's excited about everything he's doing. He's all in. He's really focused on everything that he's doing. And it's just, to me, that is a treasure. And something that I think we all appreciate just because, you go through a long year. There's some ups and downs, and sometimes, things get a little stale. Every time I see Eric, it just always puts a smile on my face.
And we've already seen your new transfers kind of make an impact for you. I was just wondering, can you walk me through a little bit of the process of how you determine who's a good fit for the team? Like, what are some of the qualities you're looking for when you're recruiting someone?
Yeah, whether, regardless of how they come in, we're obviously always, looking out there and seeing, who would be candidates to come in. Obviously you're looking for guys, athletes and guys with skill, leadership, things of that nature. But you're also trying to make sure, character wise, you're finding guys that, they do have strong character. They obviously make decisions that are well thought out. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They're not just trying to, go into a team and get what they want and just worried about scoring goals. You want to find guys that are going to make good decisions off the field. Guys that, really value winning, the process that is involved in winning, taking really good pride in being a good teammate, realize that every decision that you make reflects on your family, your hometown, your high school, and obviously where you're at now. And so when when you're talking to these guys, you're kind of asking them, what are you looking for in your process? And then obviously you're telling them more about what your culture is. And then, you're calling other people. You're calling, whether it's a college coach or, maybe another player that's played with them. Same thing, high school coach, anybody they know, and you're just trying to get a sense of how they're wired. And our guys work really hard here. They make a lot of sacrifices. There's a lot emphasis put on we more so than me. The ultimate goal is for these guys to become their best, and obviously be a group that, around here people can be proud of on and off the field. So you got to find guys that, they realize that it's more than just being a good lacrosse player. Yet I think we can help them, create great value in their lives, move on to really big things, be prepared when they graduate, but also, achieve some of their other goals, whether they're academic goals or lacrosse goals. So we do talk about lacrosse in the recruiting process, but it's not all we talk about. Because at the end of the day, when guys come in, you kind of have to see them as having a role, or if we're seeing a strong chance of that. You can never guarantee it. But the last thing you want to do is bring somebody in that, if there's not a strong chance that they can contribute. I think sometimes that's where you're running into problems. So especially in the transfer aspect of it, if somebody only has one year, you got to make sure they're wired the right way. But also, you kind of have to think that if everything fell into place, they stayed healthy, they understood kind of the concept, and they worked hard, there'd be a good opportunity for them to play. Because if they don't, I think that can create some problems. And if they're not the type of guy that mesh with your current team, then you have even more problems. So it's definitely more complicated. I think people realize, just because someone's a good player doesn't necessarily make them a great fit.
And with all the rule changes recently in the NCAA over the last decade, like NIL, for example, what kind of new challenges has that brought for you in the recruitment process?
Yeah, I just, feel like there's so many changes to your point. It's navigating those changes year to year, like what's new, what's different, how does that impact us? What does that mean? What's the landscape out there? Obviously whether it's the number of roster spots that you have, what financially you can offer people, and so there's a lot of different things that you are trying to navigate. Every sport and every coach in every sport has a budget that you need to work within. So you have to be smart about the choices that you make, and do those choices make sense? Obviously each place is going to be a little bit different. So you kind of focus on, all right, what are the resources that you have, and what are the opportunities, but yet limitations that you have, and you just balance them. But, Jake, every year it seems like it's something different that's coming your way. And then you're constantly talking to your staff, and we're lucky we have a great one where, all right, how does this impact us? What does this mean? How does this impact not only this team, but maybe down the road? Not just this year's recruiting class, but recruiting classes down the road. And it just every day, it seems like you hear something potentially new coming down the road. So you just have to be flexible. You got to be adaptable, and just whether you agree or don't agree, just got to be able to kind of roll with what's happening.
Kind of building a little bit off the hi coach, good morning, sorry.
Morning.
Yeah, kind of just building off of Jake's questions with the new parts on offense. I'm curious to hear who's the player team builder on the offense to incorporate, just to get everybody on the same page. Was it one of your returners, or was it actually one of the guys who bring in the experience that are coming in to Maryland for their first year?
I'd say a little bit of everything. I think when guys come and they visit, they meet the players, and I think them meeting each other, you kind of get a sense of whether they mesh, or if the guys have, people that are at other colleges and they've already had those well-established relationships. You'll kind of utilize those before guys come in. Once they do come in, I think most people would lean on, the guys that have been here, whether it's offense, defense, or somewhere in the middle. We do have some guys back. You kind of look at Daniel Kelly, you look at Eric Spanos, you look at Braden Erksa, those guys have all been here, played a lot for us. So you kind of look and go, all right, those guys kind of know what's expected around here. A lot of the guys coming in, building chemistry with those guys, I think is important. Yet I think those guys helping those guys get adjusted to new guys, I think was huge. And when you bring in guys that really all their goal is to help the team win, I think you get a lot more buy-in. You bring in selfless guys that again, hey guys, I'm not worried about goals. I'm not worried about how many likes I get on social media. I just want to win, and I want to help Maryland win. And that humility, that selflessness, guys that work hard, guys that are good communicators, guys that are easy to get along with. I think everybody takes to those guys really well. Those are guys that we've looked for. Those are the guys that we found. Not everybody's wired that way. I think that's why sometimes with us, again, it's finding the right guys. And again, I think your players are usually the ones that have the best sense of, hey, what's this guy like? How's he wired? Because they probably either have a relationship or know somebody that do have a relationship with somebody at another program, just because a lot of times with just the way club teams are now and everybody playing each other and social media, guys, they all kind of know each other. If you are in a recruiting class, you're playing against each other, you run into each other at different tournaments, you probably get connected, you follow each other. And again, there's usually some sort of connectivity there that helps you kind of figure out, at least at the beginning, all right, what do you know? And again, if it's positive to start, then you just keep working down that road. And at any point where they're not really interested in your program or vice versa, you kind of part ways.
Sure. And let me take my question and then point you towards really the offensive play against Richmond this past Saturday. So that's what I'm looking for. Like from the player standpoint, it didn't look uneven at all. Working with the offense, like you were still trying to diagnose things while you were out there. Hey, maybe that's just my untrained eye, but looking pretty good with all those pieces. Who were those players who almost take the lead from the coaching staff to start putting guys in place, to start, making those connections? Who were those guys?
Yeah, and I would go back to Daniel and Braden and Eric. They're our attack, right? They're out there most of the game. They've all been around. I think it's a little bit easier coming from your attack. Those guys have all kind of played a couple positions. They have a good sense of what we're trying to do. So they're, I think, very, they understand what we're doing. They're good communicators. They're good leaders. They're selfless guys. I also think the guys coming in the game, all those guys are good listeners. They're good communicators. So I think between those three and Michael Phipps, there's good chemistry there. We've kept an open dialogue all year long. We want guys to kind of step up and ask questions, be able to, kind of give their 2 cents. Part of when guys come in, when they're new, you're asking them questions. Hey, where you feel most comfortable? What have you run before? What have you done? Because you're trying to set those guys up for success, and put them in places where, hopefully they will maximize what their potential is. And that's the fun thing about lacrosse is you have a fall to try to figure that out. And that's probably been one of our biggest challenges is trying to figure out with this group who's going to play with who, and then who has the best chemistry, and then what should we be doing. And I felt like Saturday, that the first quarter it was very much like a boxing match on both sides. I think Richmond was trying to feel us out. We were trying to fill them out. We're also trying to feel ourselves out. Kind of, all right, here's what they're doing. What adjustments do we need to make? I thought Michael did a good job, Coach Phipps, of just kind of like, all right, here's what they're doing. Here's what we'll do to adjust. I think Richmond is very organized. Paul Richards does a really good job with their defense. They're always very stingy. So it took us a little time to kind of get things going a little bit, but I felt like as the game went on, our guys got more comfort with each other. And I still think we're going to be a work in progress as we go through. I don't think, I still think we're going to probably, be making some changes, whether it's schemes, groups throughout the year. And that's not atypical. We've done that a lot around here. We certainly did it at the very end last year. I think you kind of start at a place, but people evolve, guys get more comfortable. People get a sense of what you're doing. So you might have to throw some different wrinkles in. What you do at the beginning of the year isn't always what you do at the end of the year. At the beginning, a lot of times you are keeping it a little bit more simple. And then you're trying to get a sense of how people are playing you. And once you start seeing certain things, then you start adapting to that. And then there's that chess match of each game we're seeing this now. Okay, here's our adjustment. So that's the fun part about coaching and the years that, whether it's in game or week to week, you're constantly evolving and you're always asking, should these guys be playing together? Should these guys be playing more? Is there somebody that's not playing that should be playing? And guys do get dinged up, so you have to kind of navigate that too.
Coach, I've got two questions about Loyola. I'll ask the first one, and then after you respond, I'll get asked the second one. Loyola's offense, at attack, two guys kind of coming back. You guys have familiarity with them there with Minikis and Haberman, but a new part down there as well. The midfield looks like just a lot of new parts happening in the midfield, their first and second lines. How do you prepare for relatively few knowns? You got tape on them from Georgetown, but still, relatively few knowns and a lot of unknowns, especially in the midfield.
Yeah, really, that tape last week's important. Did seem like, obviously, Minikis is terrific. He'll go down as a 4-year guy. He and Haberman, I thought, played well in 23 against us. And you kind of knew with the graduation of the guys they had last year, which give those guys credit, man. I feel like those guys were at Loyola forever. And certainly respect what that class did. I think back to 2021, we're all out at Notre Dame for the quarterfinals. Duke, ourselves, and Loyola were all at the same hotel, and Loyola and Duke played before us. And, I still remember that game. A lot of people don't remember at Loyola. That Duke Loyola game went right down to the wire, and ended up being, it might have been an overtime game. Or Loyola goes to the Final Four, and those guys were all kind of guys with 3 more years of eligibility. They played 22, 23, 24. So those guys have been there a long, long time. Obviously Charlie and his staff do a great job recruiting. So there's young guys kind of waiting for their opportunity, ready to roll. And some of those guys got a little bit of time last year. Certainly got a sense of, okay, more of those guys. Now we're trying to kind of anticipate after last week, who might be playing with who. Will they mix and match? Will anybody run through the midfield? Will they move anybody down to attack? So we're kind of going through some of those hypotheticals, need to kind of have a full priority, and then kind of anticipate what are some of the things they might do. Is it going to be invert? Is it going to be big little? Are we going to see more motion? Are we going to see more wing picks, more set pieces? What have they done in the past? So you're trying to kind of utilize last week, but you're also looking at tape from last year and years past, just because, when you have, a guy like Mark Van Arsdale, he's done a lot of different things. He's been successful everywhere he's been. You add in a really bright young guy like Sean Cottle with some fresh ideas. There's another guy that is a kind of a young rising star in college lacrosse. You got a couple really good minds at that end. Obviously at the other end, Charlie and Matty Dwan, two of the better guys out there. So you're kind of looking at defensively, historically, what have they done? Whether it's man-to-man zone, you name it. What could they do and throw at us? And then try to prepare our guys all week for some of those things.
If I recall the 23 game, Loyola normally, like their defense historically has been known for being real disruptive in the midfield and, getting down to transition. When you guys got guys like McNulty back in those days, it was easy to do. But if I recall that 23 game, it seemed like they really frustrated you all by really packing in and not really extending much. It seemed like they were giving up a lot of outside shots and daring you guys to beat them. New goalie pretty much kept him in that Georgetown game, even though the score wasn't super close. He made like 12 saves or something. And they're having face-off struggles still. What do you expect to see them do defensively?
Yeah, probably, changing up their looks. We've been practicing against zone. They'll usually mix that in, mixed it in a little bit last week, something they've done for a long time. I think one thing that's helped us, right, on the defensive end, Michael Phipps, I think has played against them the last 12 years, whether, it was at Georgetown or Navy. So he definitely has some experience with, just some of, the things they've traditionally done. They definitely do a good job. They're super organized. They're a little unconventional, whether it's the trail checks that they use. They do an awesome job with their sticks of, matching your sticks and knocking down passes. They'll slide and stay on it. When you go back and invert, sometimes they'll jump into an invert zone. I know 23, they pushed out at X a little bit. I thought their short sticks did a great job in that game. I thought their goalie played terrific in that game. We just not play well, but you got to give them credit. Scoring 7 goals, is not going to win you a lot of games. But I give them all the credit in the world. I think for us, just making sure that we're all on the same page, anticipating changing looks, from one possession to another, and making sure that we're organized. We know what we're in. We echo the calls. We play well together. And if they are changing things, just making those in-game adjustments, much like last week, and kind of taking what they give us, and just working for a good shot. I think in 23, I think they kind of dictated things to us, and again, credit to them.
All right, gonna let Coach go now. Thank you all.
Good luck this week, Coach.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye.